I'm a 27-year-old guy, and for the most part, my family is pretty normal, or at least we were. That changed when my 82-year-old grandma Shirley discovered genealogy websites. Shirley's the kind of grandma who can outwit anyone in a debate, quotes Shakespeare for fun, and still drives herself to bingo nights. She's a legend in our small town. But her new obsession, it's taken us all by surprise. It started innocently enough. Last Christmas, someone gave Grandma a subscription to a popular genealogy site. At first, it seemed like a harmless way for her to pass the time. She'd call me over to show some random cousin 5 times removed, or how our ancestors might have lived in a castle. We all thought it was cute, endearing even. Then, a few weeks later, she dropped her first bombshell at dinner. She discovered that one of our distant relatives had been an infamous bootlegger in the 1920s. Picture this, we're passing mashed potatoes around the table, and Grandma casually mentions that our great-great-uncle ran an illegal distillery and was once arrested for smuggling whiskey during Prohibition. My dad laughed so hard he nearly choked on his roast beef. My mom called it our outlaw legacy. For a brief moment, we were all proud of our criminal ancestry. But that was just the beginning. Grandma got hooked. She started spending hours on the genealogy site, clicking through records, building an enormous family tree, and signing up for forums. Then she discovered DNA testing. One afternoon, I came home to find DNA kits scattered across the kitchen table. She'd ordered one for herself and a bunch for the rest of us. My mom looked unimpressed but went along with it. My dad was mildly curious. My younger siblings didn't care, but one cousin flat out refused, which only made Grandma more determined to dig deeper. Around this time, Grandma became obsessed with the physical archives in her attic. She pulled out boxes of old photo albums, faded letters, and diaries. You'd think she was preparing for a historical documentary. Every time I visited, there were new discoveries. One day, it was a 1940s prom photo. Another day, it was a stack of wartime letters she claimed held clues about family secrets. She said this with such mystery that even I started to wonder what she'd find next. Things really started heating up when she uncovered a feud between her father and his brother, my great-grandfather and great-great-uncle, I guess. Apparently, they stopped speaking over a property dispute. Grandma got so wrapped up in piecing this feud together that she hosted a family dinner to share her findings. It was a whole PowerPoint presentation, actual slides, bullet points, the works. The dinner was a disaster. One of my great-aunts accused her of prying into things that should stay buried. My mom tried to mediate, but Grandma was undeterred. She declared, "The truth deserves to be known," and moved on to her next slide like nothing happened. At this point, my mom started warning Grandma to tone it down. No one was taking her seriously, though, because it was still kind of funny, until she reached out to an estranged cousin. None of us even remembered this guy, but Grandma tracked him down like a detective. That sparked fresh drama, as old grievances between our parents and this cousin came bubbling back. Family group chats were suddenly alive with passive-aggressive messages. Somewhere in the chaos, a rumor started floating around that one of us might not be biologically related to the family. No one knew where it came from, but you can guess who everyone blamed: Grandma and her DNA kits. She didn't confirm or deny it. She just smiled, which somehow made it worse. By now, the situation was spiraling. Grandma's passion for genealogy wasn't just a hobby anymore, it was her mission. She spent more time at her computer than she did anywhere else, even skipping her usual Sunday bingo. And every time she had a breakthrough, she made sure the entire family knew about it, usually by posting updates in the group chat. The last straw for me came when she texted me asking if I could help her post on Reddit. She wanted advice from strangers about how to convince the reluctant cousin to take the DNA test. That's when I realized this was no longer a cute old lady hobby. This was a full-blown crusade, and we were all just along for the ride. At first, I debated whether to even share this story online, but honestly, it feels like something out of a soap opera, and I couldn't keep it to myself. This all started with a simple gift subscription, and has somehow turned into Grandma tearing through generations of family secrets like a one-woman wrecking crew. And this is just the beginning. Trust me, it's only going to get crazier from here. Update 1. Let me tell you, Grandma Shirley has officially gone rogue. I thought the genealogy hobby was a phase, but it's like she leveled up after the family dinner debacle. It's not just a hobby anymore, it's her life's mission. And now, we're all collateral damage. The first sign things were escalating happened at our family barbecue last weekend. Everything started out normal, kids running around, burgers on the grill, my dad trying not to burn the chicken. Grandma showed up late, holding a stack of papers like she was about to give a lecture. Nobody paid her much attention until she casually mentioned, while sipping lemonade, that she'd found something juicy in her research. It turns out Grandma stumbled across some letters and documents that hinted my late grandfather might have had a child with another woman during their marriage. And she didn't keep this revelation to herself, she just dropped it into the conversation, like it was a fun fact about the weather. The entire barbecue came to a standstill. My uncle, who had been flipping burgers, froze mid-flip. My dad stared at Grandma like she'd grown a second head. My mom tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, but it was too late. The damage was done. My uncle, who's always been the most tightly wound of the family, threw down his spatula and stormed off, muttering something about how Grandma didn't know when to quit. Grandma, though, was unbothered. She shrugged and said, "I'm just the messenger," before heading inside to grab a plate. The rest of us stood there, unsure whether to keep eating or start asking questions. By the time we regrouped, Grandma was already back on her laptop, pulling up more evidence for anyone brave enough to look. And of course, it didn't take long for her to decide that DNA tests were the best way to confirm her theory. She went through her stash of kits and convinced my dad to take one. My mom wasn't happy about it, but Dad figured it would prove Grandma wrong and put the whole thing to rest. Spoiler alert, it didn't. A few weeks later, the results came in. Sure enough, the DNA test revealed a match, a half-sibling none of us knew existed. I wish I could say the family took it well, but that would be a lie. My dad was furious, not because of the half-sibling, but because Grandma couldn't leave the past alone. He felt like she was digging up things that didn't need to be dug up, and honestly, I could see his point. But Grandma wasn't about to stop. She tracked down the half-sibling, a guy named Ryan, who lives a few hours away. And guess what? Ryan was open to meeting us. Grandma was thrilled. She immediately started planning a family reunion without asking anyone else how they felt about it. Meanwhile, my siblings and I were caught in the middle. My younger sister thought we should welcome Ryan with open arms because family is family. My brother, on the other hand, was firmly against the idea, saying it was too weird and too soon. I didn't even have time to form an opinion because things were moving so fast. While this was happening, my mom was losing her mind. She pulled me aside one night and said if Grandma didn't back off, she was going to cancel Christmas. I thought she was joking, but the look on her face said otherwise. As if the tension wasn't bad enough, Grandma decided to share the DNA results and all her findings in the family group chat. That went about as well as you'd expect. My uncle, who still hadn't cooled off from the barbecue, called her out for stirring up drama. My dad left the group chat entirely. My mom sent a string of texts trying to calm everyone down, but it only added to the chaos. I tried to step in as the voice of reason, suggesting we all take a step back and process things before making any decisions. Nobody listened. Grandma was too busy calling up distant relatives to see if they had any dirt on Ryan's side of the family. My dad and uncle were barely speaking to each other. My siblings were arguing nonstop. And Grandma? She was having the time of her life. Things hit a new level of awkward when Ryan joined the group chat. Grandma had invited him without telling anyone, and his first message was something along the lines of, "Hi everyone, I'm excited to get to know you all." It was the digital equivalent of walking into a room where everyone had just been arguing. Nobody knew how to respond. Now I'm sitting here, updating Reddit because, honestly, I can't believe this is my life. I keep thinking it can't get any worse, but then Grandma finds a way to top herself. She's like a chaos generator, and we're all just trying to survive. I have no idea where this is going, but at this point, I'm almost afraid to find out. Update 2. So here's the latest in what I'm now calling the Grandma Chronicles after the whole Ryan situation. Things got way more intense. The family decided enough was enough, and they were going to take a stand against Grandma's relentless digging. Spoiler, it did not go as planned. It all started when my mom organized an intervention. She got my dad, my uncle, and even my aunt on board. The plan was to sit Grandma down and politely but firmly tell her that she needed to stop dragging everyone's skeletons out of the closet. They even practiced what they were going to say to keep things calm. When the big moment came, Grandma sat there, arms crossed, listening to everyone like she was watching a poorly scripted TV show. When they finished, she stood up, looked everyone in the eye, and declared herself a truce crusader. Then she walked out of the room, leaving everyone speechless. It didn't stop there. My uncle, still furious about the whole barbecue incident, decided to take legal action. He hired a lawyer to draft a cease and desist letter to prevent Grandma from sharing any more personal information about the family. He was dead serious, too. I found out about it when my mom called to vent, saying the lawyer's fees could have paid for an entire family vacation instead. When Grandma got the letter, she didn't even flinch. Instead, she retaliated by pulling out a box of old photos and mailing my uncle every embarrassing baby picture she could find. I'm talking about bathtub shots, bad Halloween costumes, the works. It was petty, sure, but also kind of hilarious. Meanwhile, one of my cousins, who clearly thrives on drama, leaked one of Grandma's discoveries online. It was about a distant relative who had been arrested in the 1940s for some petty crime. The post went viral, and suddenly people outside the family were commenting, sharing stories, and asking questions. Grandma found out and actually seemed thrilled that her research was getting so much attention. The rest of the family? Not so much. With tensions running high, people started taking sides. My younger sister thought Grandma was just misunderstood and accused everyone of overreacting. My brother sided with my dad, saying Grandma was ruining family unity. The group chat became a battleground, with relatives sniping at each other over everything from old grudges to who was bringing what to Thanksgiving. It was chaos. Then Grandma dropped her next bombshell. Apparently, one of my great uncles had a secret second family. She found evidence in a series of letters and confirmed it through an old marriage certificate. This revelation set off another firestorm. My aunt, who has always been the family peacekeeper, finally lost it. She showed up at Grandma's house, demanding she stop digging into the past and accusing her of tearing the family apart. Grandma, of course, wasn't fazed. Instead, she started giving what I can only describe as investigation updates at Sunday dinners. She'd bring printouts, charts, and even laminated copies of documents she'd uncovered. The rest of us sat there awkwardly, trying not to make eye contact. One night, I decided to see just how far this had gone. While visiting Grandma, I snooped on her computer and found a folder labeled Family Secrets. Inside were subfolders named after each branch of the family, filled with scanned documents, spreadsheets, and what looked like a timeline of every scandal she'd uncovered. It was both impressive and terrifying. It gets better or worse, depending on your perspective. Grandma started posting on a genealogy forum, sharing her findings and asking for tips on how to dig deeper. This caught the attention of strangers who were eager to help. One distant relative even reached out with more dirt, including a newspaper clipping about some drama involving a long-forgotten cousin. Grandma was thrilled. The rest of us were horrified. At one point, she floated the idea of writing a tell-all book. She brought it up casually at dinner, and I thought my dad was going to have a stroke. He offered to pay her to stop, but Grandma just laughed and said she wasn't for sale. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I have to admit, part of me is reluctantly impressed. Grandma is 82, and she's managed to turn our entire family upside down with nothing but a laptop and a subscription to a genealogy site. She's unstoppable. As I'm typing this, the family group chat is still blowing up. People are arguing, alliances are shifting, and somehow Grandma keeps finding new ways to escalate the drama. I keep thinking there's no way she can top herself, but she always does. At this point, I'm just here for the ride. Stay tuned, because I'm sure there's more chaos coming. Update 3. The latest chapter of the Grandma Chronicles kicked off with Ryan, the newly discovered half-sibling, joining us for a family dinner. My mom reluctantly agreed to host, but you could feel the tension in the air. People were polite on the surface, but it was like everyone was waiting for something to explode. Ryan didn't seem fazed, though. He walked in smiling, shook everyone's hand, and even brought dessert. Dinner started off awkward but manageable. My dad mostly avoided eye contact with Ryan, while my uncle acted like he wasn't there at all. Grandma, of course, was in her element. She treated Ryan like a guest of honor, sitting him right next to her and chatting nonstop. At one point, she pulled out a folder, because of course she did, and started explaining how she'd pieced everything together to find him. You could practically hear my mom grinding her teeth from across the room. Then Ryan did something that changed the whole vibe of the night. He sided with Grandma. He told everyone that her digging into family history was a good thing, and that uncovering the truth, even if it's messy, is important. This set off a chain reaction. My aunt rolled her eyes, my uncle muttered something under his breath, and my dad excused himself to check on the grill, even though dinner was already on the table. After dinner, Ryan and I ended up talking, and honestly, he's a pretty chill guy. We both agreed that the whole situation was absurd, but he had a surprisingly optimistic take on it. He said families are complicated, and maybe all of this chaos would lead to everyone being more honest with each other. I wasn't so sure, but it was nice to have someone else who saw the humor in all of this. Of course, Grandma couldn't just let the night end on a high note. She waited until dessert to drop her next bombshell. She'd found another secret. One of our cousins, let's call her Emma, was adopted. Apparently, Grandma had stumbled across adoption records while doing her research and had been waiting for the right time to share the news. Emma was blindsided. She stared at Grandma, then at her parents, and left the table without saying a word. Her mom went after her, leaving the rest of us in stunned silence. Ryan, bless his heart, decided to throw gasoline on the fire. He casually mentioned that if there were more secrets to uncover, maybe Grandma should hire a private investigator. My mom snapped. She told Grandma she was banned from family gatherings until she learned to respect boundaries. Grandma didn't argue. She just nodded like she'd been expecting it. But banning Grandma didn't slow her down. Instead, she started holding secret meetings with the relatives who were still on her side. She even recruited Ryan, who seemed weirdly enthusiastic about joining Team Grandma. I only found out about the meetings because my younger sister accidentally mentioned them during a phone call. Apparently, they've been brainstorming new ways to uncover more dirt, including reaching out to distant relatives and scanning more public records. A few days later, I went over to Grandma's house to drop off some groceries. That's when I saw it, the mural. She had turned an entire wall in her living room into a massive, color-coded family tree. There were sticky notes, photos, and strings connecting different branches of the family. It looked like something out of a detective movie. She proudly showed it off, pointing out every scandal she'd uncovered so far. Ryan came over while I was there, and we ended up talking again. This time, he opened up about his own family drama. Apparently, his mom's side of the family had its fair share of skeletons, which he said made him more understanding of what Grandma was doing. Grandma, overhearing this, got all misty-eyed and declared that Ryan was proof that her work was bringing people closer together. Then came the historian. Grandma had contacted a local history buff to verify some of her findings. The guy agreed to help and even stopped by her house to go over some documents. While they were talking, he let it slip that one of our relatives had been involved in a scandalous business deal in the 1950s. Grandma's eyes lit up, and I knew she wasn't going to let that lead go. At this point, my aunt had had enough. She came over and demanded that Grandma destroy all her notes and stop whatever it was she was doing. Grandma refused, saying, "You can't bury the truth," like she was in some kind of courtroom drama. My aunt stormed out, and Grandma went back to pinning more sticky notes on her wall. Now I'm back here updating Reddit because, honestly, this has gone so far beyond anything I could have imagined. On one hand, Grandma's relentless determination is kind of impressive. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure our family will never recover from this. Somehow, she's managed to keep escalating, and I have no idea what she's planning next. All I know is that it's probably going to be even crazier than everything so far. Stay tuned. Update 4. The chaos surrounding Grandma Shirley has reached levels I didn't think were possible. Just when we thought she couldn't stir up more drama, she managed to take things to a whole new level. At this point, it feels like living in the middle of a soap opera with no commercial breaks. It all started with the heirloom. For as long as I can remember, there's been this ornate, antique pocket watch in the family. It's been passed down for generations, and my dad has always kept it in a glass case in his office. One day, Grandma casually mentioned during one of her investigation updates that the pocket watch wasn't ours to begin with. According to her, it had been taken, stolen, from another family during the Great Depression. She backed it up with records and even some correspondence between relatives that made it pretty clear the story checked out. My dad, horrified, decided to quietly return the watch to the descendants of the rightful owners. He didn't tell anyone, not even my mom, but of course Grandma noticed it was gone within a day. She texted the family group chat with a cryptic message about justice being served. Now everyone knows, and the group chat is an even bigger mess than before. If that wasn't enough, Grandma announced she was taking an online genealogy course to sharpen her skills. You'd think this would be a harmless hobby, but no. This course gave her new tools and techniques to dig even deeper into our family's history. She was thrilled. The rest of us were bracing for impact. Things took a hilarious turn when my uncle tried to have Grandma banned from the genealogy website she's been using. He claimed she was violating the family's privacy by posting sensitive information on her profile. The website actually took the complaint seriously and temporarily suspended her account. Did that stop her? Of course not. Within hours, she'd created a new account under a fake name and was back to her sleuthing like nothing happened. During a visit to Grandma's house, I stumbled across her journal. It wasn't a normal diary. It was like something out of a conspiracy theorist playbook. Every page was covered in cryptic notes, sketches of family trees, and underlined phrases like "the truth will out" and "secrets buried deep." It felt like I was holding evidence from a true crime documentary. Then came the YouTube channel. Yes, Grandma started her own channel. She set up a little filming corner in her living room with a ring light and everything. She's been posting videos about her findings, complete with slideshows and dramatic music. The videos have titles like The Dark Secrets of My Family Tree and How to Uncover Scandals in Your Genealogy. The channel is slowly gaining traction, and the comments section is full of strangers egging her on. My mom was mortified when she found out and threatened to cut off Grandma financially if she didn't take it down. Grandma didn't flinch. Instead, she started selling old family artifacts online to fund her projects. My siblings and I tried to reason with her, but she just laughed and told us we'd thank her one day. Her latest discovery? Another potential half-sibling. This one's still unconfirmed, but Grandma is already digging for proof. She dropped this revelation at yet another family dinner, and the room immediately descended into chaos. My uncle yelled, my mom stormed out, and Ryan, the first half-sibling, just sat there eating his dessert like it was the best entertainment he'd ever had. The family is now seriously debating cutting ties with Grandma altogether. My dad thinks she's gone too far, while my mom just wants some peace and quiet. My aunt is all for cutting her off, but my younger sister thinks we'd be overreacting. It's like every conversation turns into a debate about whether or not Grandma's crusade is tearing us apart. Grandma, meanwhile, argues that she's doing all of this for our family's legacy. She keeps saying that future generations will appreciate her work, even if we don't understand it now. Personally, I think she just loves the drama, but I can't deny she's committed. To top it all off, one of our neighbors has gotten involved. Apparently, they heard about Grandma's research and asked her for help with their own family history. Now, Grandma is splitting her time between uncovering our secrets and digging up dirt for the neighbors. She's even mentioned collaborating with them on a joint YouTube video. I don't even know how to process everything anymore. Grandma is like a force of nature, and no one can stop her. Every time I think we've hit rock bottom, she finds a way to dig deeper, both figuratively and literally. At this point, I'm just updating Reddit to keep myself sane. I honestly have no idea if our family will ever recover from this, but one thing's for sure, Grandma isn't slowing down anytime soon. Stay tuned, because I'm sure there's more madness coming. Update 5. Here we are, at what I can only describe as the shocking finale to the chaos Grandma Shirley unleashed on our family. Somehow, after all the drama, she managed to leave us stunned one last time, and against all odds, even brought some of us closer together. Let me explain. It started when Grandma unearthed a letter hidden inside one of her mother's old journals. She was cataloging some family heirlooms, probably for her YouTube channel, when she found it tucked between the pages. The letter was from her mom, written decades ago, confessing to a major family deception. A key part of our family history was a lie. According to the letter, one of our great-grandparents wasn't actually who we thought they were. The details were hazy, something about a secret adoption, and a name change to avoid scandal, but it completely changed the narrative of where our family came from. Grandma, of course, saw this as her crowning achievement. She immediately called my parents to share the news. At first, my dad wanted nothing to do with it. He'd been one of the loudest voices against Grandma's obsession, and he wasn't ready to entertain another bombshell. But my mom convinced him to hear Grandma out, and for the first time in months, they actually sat down with her. Grandma showed them the letter and walked them through everything she'd discovered. By the end of the conversation, they finally understood why she'd been so relentless. Grandma wasn't just digging for the sake of drama. She genuinely believed that uncovering the truth, no matter how painful, was important for preserving our family's history. My parents, to my surprise, reconciled with her. It didn't happen overnight, but they started to appreciate her motives, even if her methods had been a bit extreme. Meanwhile, Ryan, the half-sibling Grandma had uncovered, was turning out to be a surprisingly stabilizing influence. He became the go-to mediator whenever family arguments broke out, which was ironic given how his existence had initially caused such a stir. Ryan even started hosting informal gatherings to help everyone reconnect, and people actually showed up. It was weird seeing him step into that role, but it worked. Then, just when things seemed to be calming down, Grandma dropped another bombshell. During her research, she discovered a connection to a well-known historical figure. Apparently, one of our ancestors had worked closely with someone famous during a major historical event. It wasn't enough to land us in a textbook, but it was still a pretty big deal. Grandma was over the moon and immediately started updating her YouTube channel with this newfound claim to fame. This revelation had an unexpected ripple effect. A long-lost relative, someone we'd never even heard of, reached out to Grandma after seeing her channel. They thanked her for uncovering parts of the family history they'd always wondered about, and even joined one of Ryan's gatherings to meet everyone. It was surreal, but also kind of amazing. As all of this unfolded, I started noticing something. Grandma's obsession, as chaotic as it had been, was actually bringing some of us closer. My parents were talking to her again, my siblings were spending more time together, and even my aunt and uncle had stopped bickering long enough to laugh about the absurdity of it all. Eventually, Grandma announced she was stepping back from her investigations, at least for now. She said she felt like she'd accomplished what she set out to do and wanted to focus on organizing her findings for future generations. To celebrate, the family threw a reunion. It wasn't as dramatic as you might expect, just a low-key barbecue, but it was the first time in a while that everyone was in the same place without arguing. Even my aunt, who had been one of Grandma's harshest critics, apologized for some of the things she'd said during the more heated moments. The biggest surprise of all came a week later when Grandma received an award from a local genealogy society for her contributions. She didn't tell anyone she'd been nominated, so we only found out when she invited us to the ceremony. Seeing her on stage, clutching her little plaque, was bizarre but also kind of heartwarming. Even my dad clapped. In the end, Grandma decided to donate all her research to a local archive. She said she wanted to make sure the information was preserved for anyone else who might want to explore our family's history someday. It was a surprisingly selfless move, and I think it helped repair some of the relationships she'd strained along the way. The family also agreed to set some boundaries moving forward. No more unannounced DNA tests, no more dramatic reveals at family dinners, and definitely no more secret meetings. Grandma, for her part, seemed content with the compromise. Now that the dust has settled, I've had some time to reflect. Grandma's chaos wasn't all bad. Sure, it caused more drama than I ever thought possible, but it also uncovered stories we never would have known and brought some long-lost relatives into our lives. It's been a wild ride, but I think we're better for it. This is probably my last update, so thanks to everyone who's followed along. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that family is messy, unpredictable, and sometimes downright ridiculous, but that's what makes it worth it.